Listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. You will have time to read the instructions and questions and you will be given time to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts.
Now turn to part 1.
You will hear 2 people talking about a survey on local transport. First, you'll have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello.
Oh, hello. My name's Sue Brown. I'm a second-year student. I'm doing business studies. I've got an assignment to do for my marketing course, and I was wondering if you could help me. It's about transport, and I have to interview a few people about their local transport system.
Okay.
I'm sorry to call you at dinner time, but I really find it difficult to get time to do this.
No, that's fine. As long as it doesn't take long.
No. It won't take long at all. So, first of all, can I just check a few details about you?
Sure.
Okay. If I can just start by taking your name. It's Martin, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Martin. Could you give me your full name, please?
Yes, it's Martin Harris.
Is that Harris?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you. Can I have your contact number?
Oh, sure. It's 6961273.
6961372?
No, 1273.
Got it. Thanks. And can I have your address?
It's 22 North Avenue in Newbridge.
Oh, right, I know that area. It's a nice part of town.
Yes, it is.
Okay, and can I just ask what your job is?
I work in a bank, in the center of town.
Oh, I'm sure that must be very interesting.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'd like to ask you a few questions about the bus system. Now, do you live near your workplace?
No, I live in the town center, so I have to commute.
And how do you get to work?
Well, I don't often catch the bus to go to work. I usually drive my car. I only use the bus if I have to go to the shops, to buy food or clothes or things like that.
Okay, so, do you think the bus service is good?
Well, they're okay, but I think they're quite crowded most of the time, especially in the mornings and evenings. It's hard to find a seat.
Right, yes, I know what you mean. So, how do you think the service could be improved?
Well, I think they should have more buses, especially during rush hours. That would make things a lot easier.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you'll have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Okay, now I'd like to ask you a few questions about cycling. Do you have a bike?
Oh yes, I do. I go cycling quite often, especially at weekends.
So, what do you think about the cycle lanes in the city? Do you think there are enough?
Oh no, there aren't. There are very few cycle lanes in the city. I think they should have more because cycling is a great way of getting around. It's much better than using the car, especially for short journeys. And, of course, it doesn't pollute the air.
Yes, that's true. So, do you think any other bike facilities should be improved?
Definitely. There should be more lanes for cyclists, and they should also provide a detailed map showing the best bike routes around the city. That would be really useful.
That's a great idea. Now, what about walking? Do you think the city is pedestrian-friendly?
Not really. I think they should have more pedestrian crossings and maybe even introduce a few pedestrian-only zones in busy areas. That would make it safer and more pleasant for people walking.
Yes, I agree. Just one last question. How much does a monthly bus pass cost here?
Oh, it's £45 per month. I think that's a bit expensive for some people.
Oh, I see. Well, thanks very much for your time. You've been very helpful.
That's okay. Bye.
Bye.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 1.
Part 2.
You will hear a woman giving a talk about the evolution of automobiles, their impact on urban life and the environment, and potential solutions to reduce car dependency. First, you'll have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Welcome to today's discussion on one of the most significant innovations in human history, the motor car. But before we dive into that, let's go back even further. The invention of the wheel was a major shift in how transportation functioned, enabling the creation of carts and wagons. It revolutionized the way goods and people were moved, and was undoubtedly a groundbreaking advancement many centuries ago. Some might argue that the biggest change came much later, with the rise of industrial transport systems, but the wheel itself was the foundation of modern mobility. Fast forward to the early 1900s, and the automobile became a dominant mode of transportation. During this period, cars rapidly took over from traditional means of travel, with many people choosing them over horse-drawn carriages and bicycles. Not only did cars gain widespread popularity, but they actually replaced many other transport options altogether. Some suggest that what made them unique was their engineering, but their ability to fully displace older methods is what made them stand out. Now, you may be wondering how this discussion fits into our larger series. Today's program expands upon an earlier discussion I had on transport, where I explored various historical changes in how people get around. This episode is one part of a larger exploration of transport evolution, focusing specifically on automobiles. Some may expect us to cover global transport methods today, but we are instead honing in on a single crucial aspect: the rise and impact of cars. One major issue we face today with cars in urban areas is severe congestion. With more and more vehicles on the road, traffic has become a daily struggle, leading to longer travel times and frustration. Although financial costs and safety concerns are also growing problems, the most immediate challenge is excessive road congestion. Some would argue that higher expenses are the key issue, while others believe that the dangers of driving outweigh all other concerns. But the sheer volume of cars in cities causes the greatest difficulty. Speaking of challenges, let's talk about the environmental consequences of widespread car usage. Many argue that modern vehicles are much more durable and efficient than in the past, but the bigger concern is their global impact on the environment. For instance, consider a massive oil tanker transporting fuel across the world. It demonstrates the serious damage that car emissions contribute on an international scale. Some people claim that cars today are not as harmful as they once were, while others believe the real problem is how they are manufactured. But in reality, their carbon footprint remains a major issue.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you'll have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
As we consider the challenges caused by increasing car usage, it's crucial to explore strategies that could help reduce vehicle dependence in urban areas. One effective approach is to establish zones where cars are restricted, allowing only pedestrians and cyclists to move freely. This can significantly cut harmful emissions and improve urban air quality. By creating these spaces, we can limit the impact of vehicle exhaust, ensuring cleaner and healthier city environments. Another pressing concern is the cost of fuel and its availability. Many argue that making fuel more affordable would ease the financial burden on drivers, but the real issue lies in ensuring diverse and sustainable energy sources for transportation. If people have access to alternative fuels, such as biofuels or electric charging stations, reliance on conventional petrol and diesel could decrease, leading to a more sustainable transport system. Car-sharing initiatives are another practical solution to reduce congestion. Encouraging people to share rides instead of driving alone can help cut the number of vehicles on the road. With fewer cars in circulation, there will be less strain on road infrastructure and lower overall travel expenses, making transport more economical for everyone. One factor often overlooked is how work schedules affect traffic flow. If companies allowed employees to adjust their working hours, fewer people would need to travel during peak times. This would lead to smoother traffic movement and reduced travel time, benefiting both commuters and city planners. By spreading out road usage throughout the day, we can create a more efficient and less stressful urban transport system. Finally, enhancing public transportation networks is essential for reducing reliance on personal vehicles. Expanding and upgrading bus and train services, making them more reliable and comfortable, would encourage people to use them more frequently. Additionally, addressing noise pollution caused by heavy traffic can make public transport a more pleasant alternative, attracting even more users and easing congestion further. By implementing these measures, cities can take meaningful steps toward a more sustainable and efficient transportation system, benefiting both people and the environment.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2.
Part 3.
You will hear two students called Betty and Bruce talking to Professor Dundee about their own presentation. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Come in.
Professor Dundee, we're ready to make our presentation.
Oh, yes. I did say 1 o'clock, didn't I? Please, sit down. So, who goes first? Bruce? Or you, Betty?
I guess I could. Bruce is always a little shy.
Not after he's had a lager for lunch, eh, Bruce? Ha ha! No, Betty really should go first.
Okay, well, I'm reporting on the effects of different marketing strategies on the cheese and oil markets. Different strategies obviously affect the sales volume differently. I looked at the sales in 2 countries, New Zealand and Colombia.
And what did you find? Pray tell.
Well, in New Zealand, the sales of both oil and cheese have declined pretty steadily, and in fact the sales have decreased more quickly than the population. On the other hand, in Colombia, the volume of sales for both products has remained the same.
Wait, so you said sales in New Zealand have been going down?
Correct. Suppliers have introduced 2 new upscale brands of each product, which are a bit expensive but very tasty. The big ad agencies are trying out a new series of ads that shift the focus from health to great taste. They think that will get sales moving up in New Zealand, where the population is less affluent and generally less health conscious.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Bruce? Yeah. My report is about chocolate sales in Italy and Germany. The 2 countries' marketers have found out that you have to market chocolate differently in each country. For example, in Italy, Kostig, the most expensive brand, pays shop owners to put the candy just about knee-high for an adult. I don't see. For little kids, that's about eye level. That bright red candy is the first one they see, so they buy it. Even better, they start telling their moms to buy it too. So, you mean... Well, I mean, in Italy, if you locate your product at the right location of shelves, sales do great. They say it doesn't matter much what brand of chocolate you're selling. As for Germany, das Land der Schokolade. Huh? That's German. It means the land of chocolate. Germans love the stuff, so people make a joke and call Germany that. Oh, right. So, you were saying? Well, like you pointed out, Germans love chocolate, but they're thrifty. For a long time, the biggest selling brand was Schmutzig, mostly because it was the second cheapest, but didn't taste too bad.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Again, brilliant. A pretty good job, both of you. Tell me, what do you plan to investigate next week?
I'm especially interested in the effects of colour on sales of products, so I'll be looking at ads for cosmetics and cleaning products in the local market. You know, like the distinct orange colour of Mr. Muscle, lavatory cleaning products.
And you, Bruce? I'm focusing on the effects of different containers on sales of cookies, so I'm going to look into packaging for cookies and how the materials they use will affect the image, and in turn, sales. You know, most containers are paper, but some expensive cookies come in metal boxes. The shiny metal boxes catch people's attention, and the image remains in the memory longer. Well, it sounds like you two are all set. But as always in this course, I urge you both to pay much more attention to the advertisement extensions. That's often the key. All right? Any questions for me before you go?
No, I think I'm all set. Thanks.
Me too. Thanks, Professor Dundee. See you later.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Part 4.
You will hear an introduction of the exhibition named 2 Centuries of the Bike. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to our exhibition, 2 Centuries of the Bike. Let's stroll around the exhibition, shall we? Although there were a few early efforts back in the 1700s, you didn't really see many bikes till, say, the 1830s in England. Bikes were a response to the rapid growth of cities early in the 19th century. Cities like London were getting too big to walk across. The early bike let people travel with less effort than walking. Plus, a bike was a lot cheaper than a horse. Think of it. No one invented a bike for, 5,000 years of human history. Why did people do it then? Probably because this was the start of the machine age. People wanted machines to do all the work. There were some drawbacks, however. For one thing, there were no pedals. You simply pushed yourself along using your feet, kind of like today's skateboard. That meant you went fairly slow, and uphill you actually worked harder, pushing that two-wheeler. Plus, the wheels were made of wood covered with metal, as you can see from this model. So the downside was that the ride was quite uncomfortable on most roads. Only a few gadget lovers had or used them. By the 1860s, though, improvements were being made. As you can see from this specimen, metal frames had become the rule. They are more durable than wood, and they don't warp in the rain. The biggest improvement, however, was the development of the chain and sprocket system. They are connected. This meant you did not push the bike. You used pedals, just like today. You had to try harder to balance, so it took some practice to figure out how to use the pedals. But it made the ride so much easier. As a result, the good thing was that you could ride a lot more smoothly and with very little effort. By the 1880s, another big change was the use of rubber wheels. These became pretty common at that time. Though the first ones were solid rubber, the ride was a good deal more comfortable than the old iron and wood system. This is a big consideration, because the faster you go, the more you feel every bump. Air-filled tyres, pneumatic tyres, didn't really come into use till around the year 1900, as you can see from this exhibition over here. That made the ride even more comfortable. So by 1890 or so, people were going a lot faster and a lot more smoothly. There was one problem when you were going quickly and comfortably. Oh no, how do I stop? Yes, we all laugh now, but for a long time the only way to stop was to drag your feet. That didn't work very well, and it would be dangerous if you were going fast. In the crowded cities of those years, New York, Chicago and so on, you would get killed if you couldn't stop for, say, a streetcar. Plus, look at this bike. The front wheel is nearly 1 metre and 2/3 tall. They made them that way so you could see over people and wagons, but you couldn't drag your feet. This model is called a velocipede, a speed pedal. Another characteristic of the bike in this period is that it has 2 equal-sized wheels, which signalled a big change in bikes. For with the velocipede, brakes appeared. If you wanted to stop, you just pushed the pedal backwards. Doing that stopped the back wheel of the bike. This technique worked a lot better than dragging your feet or jumping off the high seat there. This meant that bikes became a great deal safer. It would have been safer if people wore helmets, but the first bicycle helmet wasn't invented until years later, and even then it was little more than a leather ball cap. It really wasn't until the 1970s that the bike helmet was modified to provide some real protection. Before continuing on to look at developments since the 1890s, let's say a word more about safety. Everyone knows if you're going downhill, you can get going dangerously fast. To go more than 100 kilometers an hour isn't all that difficult, but even on level ground, it's easy to go too quickly. On a city street, today's bicycles can be ridden at a speed of over 40 miles an hour over a short distance. That's about 64 kilometers an hour. Remember, you're on a bike, not in a car. There's nothing to protect you. People are killed in single bicycle accidents every day, just from hitting the road. A good rule to remember is, if you're going faster than the cars, slow down. And please wear a helmet. Nearly 1/4 of the epilepsy cases come from head injuries in accidents on bikes and motorcycles. I don't mean to scare you, but safety is everyone's business. What? Now that's a good question. Why are today's bikes so much faster? Well, it's not just that today's athletes are faster. The answer is partly mechanical. If you look closely here at the back wheel, you'll see a number of gears. Changing gears is what makes those fast speeds possible. You can shift gears depending on the terrain and how hard you wish to pedal. So you can put it on a higher gear for downhill and a lower gear for uphill travel to make it easier to climb that slope. You'll notice this gear shifting mechanism is attached to the back wheel, and when the rider shifts on the handlebar gear shifter, the chain moves to the appropriate sprocket. And, speaking of changing gears, let's look over here at our Tour de France exhibit.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 4. That is the end of the listening test.